Welcome to this abbreviated edition of the Mojobreak Dugout Session. As you can see, it is just it's just Cody going solo here as we are about to set off on our final expedition for the baseball season. The World Series is upon us. October baseball at its finest. And what a crazy week it was in the LCS. The Rays looked like they were about to become just the second team to blow a 3-0 lead to those awful, horrible, no good, very bad Houston Astros. Carlos Correa was pimping home runs, and the guys just look like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be a disaster for baseball and for the National League. The Braves had a 3-1 lead. Looked like the Atlanta Braves were going to finally end their playoff woes, get to their first World Series in 21 years, but if there's one thing we can count on in sports, it's that an Atlanta team is going to figure out a way to blow it, and lo and behold, the Braves did just that. They blew the 3-1 lead. Luckily for Tampa Bay, they did not blow a 3-0 series lead. So here we are. Just as we expected, the number one seed from each league is going to be in the World Series in Arlington. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about 6 players to keep an eye on during this World Series. Guys that, as a collector, you should be keeping an eye on, maybe under the radar guys. Obviously, guys who have been the hottest names in the hobby as of late, and guys who are really trying to solidify their legacy in not just Major League Baseball, but as collectors as well. So I think we have to start with the guy who has been the face of postseason baseball and really has become the face of the Tampa Bay Rays, and that would be Randy Arozarena, a man that if you paid me $5 million last year to name who this guy was, to pronounce his name correctly probably, I could not do that. He was on the St. Louis Cardinals in their minor league system. After defecting from Cuba, he played in the Mexican League for a little bit, made a name for himself there, but really, this was not a guy on anybody's radar. I don't care who you are. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how many issues of baseball prospectus you've read in your life. You did not think Randy Arozarena was going to become the postseason leader for rookie home runs in a single postseason. Nobody thought that. Not even Randy Arozarena. Well, maybe Randy Arozarena. The guy seems to love him some Randy, as he said, I think, in one post-game press conference. 8 home runs, I think, or 7 home runs, whatever it is, a big number for the postseason so far. The card values have gone through the roof. And I think this is a moment where you have to think, is this as good as it's going to get for Randy Arozarena? Do I think Randy Arozarena is going to be a better player than what we're seeing right now? I'm not so sure. Will he be a good player? I absolutely think so. He's 25 years old. He's clearly made a name for himself. He had great numbers in the minor leagues and the Mexican leagues in St. Louis in that short stint before he got traded in a big-time deal for Matthew Liberatore, the Rays' former top prospect. I think he can continue this. I think he can be a very good player, an all-star caliber player, but the fact is he's on the Tampa Bay Rays, and I don't mean to disparage Tampa and their fans, as Tampa may become title town with the Lightning and them, and who knows what Tom Brady will do with the Tampa Bay Bucks, but it's just not a team where guys sell like crazy and guys become big names. The biggest name to come out of there was Evan Longoria, and even him, he was not this super sought-after guy in the hobby. So this might be the best time. If you've got a Arozarena, sell now. He probably will have value for years to come, but I don't think he's ever going to have the value he's got right now. It's been an incredible run. I'm loving it. I love the cowboy boots for Arozarena. I want to see more of the guy, and maybe he defies the odds and he becomes that superstar player that Tampa has never really had other than maybe Longoria. So we'll see where this goes from here on out for Arozarena, but I would recommend now, if you got him, sell him. Next up, Clayton Kershaw, a guy who really, if the two things that are going to define him as a player, one, incredible regular season success, almost without question, the best pitcher, I should say, of his generation in the regular season. Cannot say the same thing for him in the postseason. Dodger fans will say, look, he's got a really high postseason ERA, which high in quotation marks. It's around the mid-4s. It's not crazy bad. It's not good. It's clearly not good. But they will say he has pitched almost more than any other pitcher in postseason history for the Dodgers and among the most in Major League history. So, of course, he's going to have some bad outings. But the fact of the matter is, that stigma of being a postseason choker is going to stick with him until he's lifting the Commissioner's Trophy, until he has proven that he can win when it counts the most. He was on his way to dispelling that, I think, prior to the 2019 postseason. He had that blow up. I don't blame him against the Nationals in the NLDS in 2019. I don't blame him for that. I think that's a Dave Roberts managerial mistake for throwing him into the fire there when he absolutely did not need to. He had great bullpen options. But this postseason, it's kind of gotten back to normal, and I don't mean that in a good way for Kershaw. He had his best regular season in years. I'm a little surprised he kind of regressed here in the postseason. But there's a lot of time for him to prove himself. Game 1, as I'm recording this right now, is tonight. He is scheduled to be the starter. In terms of his value for cards, he's a pitcher that's always a little finicky with pitchers, but he's one of those guys who bucks the trend. Because if he retired tomorrow, he is a Hall of Famer. There's no question about it. What does it do for him if he's able to finally get rid of the postseason jitters? I think it does a lot. I'm not sure it makes a huge jump in his value if you're hanging on to a Kershaw card from years ago. But I guess I would point to guys like Madison Bumgarner, who, you know, I just don't see him having the same amount of value, despite the fact he is unquestionably the best postseason pitcher of his generation. The regular season has always been pretty good to in the middle for him. What does it do for Kershaw? I think he does go up here, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do against the Rays. I have been one of those guys who I've not totally bought into the Kershaw is a terrible postseason pitcher. I just think there have been times where he's had tough luck losses, but maybe now it kind of speaks for itself the last couple of outings. So we'll see what he could do here in the postseason, in the World Series, and against a Rays team that is not really hitting very well right now. That may be just the antidote he needs to finally get over those World Series jitters. Next up, we're going to go another pitcher. This time for the Tampa Bay Rays, another Cy Young Award winner, Blake Snell, a guy who made waves in the offseason for his comments. That's really, I think, nationally how a lot of people view him. He made some comments about, hey, we're not getting paid, blah, blah, blah. And, when you're in the middle of a pandemic where people are struggling for money, you're not going to get a lot of fans that way. My personal feelings for that aside, and, it's a part of me maybe understands where he's coming from, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about Blake Snell, the pitcher, who a former Cy Young Award winner, just back in 2018, right around there, and then a rough year last year, up and down year. This year, a much better year. If you look at his career, it's been a lot of this. It's been a lot of ups and downs. I was surprised to see, looking on eBay, and eBay can always be, it's not the best barometer at times of value, but looking at his value, I was surprised to see that there are some pretty good deals, especially considering a guy like Randy Rosario, who is only played not even a full season of games, barely half of a season of games, and where his value is compared to a guy who's won a Cy Young Award, Blake Snell. And I know, pitchers and hitters, it's different, but I think there's still value here. He's young. He's going to be a free agent in a couple of years. And I think a World Series title and a World Series performance. We saw Steven Strasburg last year have a huge postseason, finally put it all together and really capitalize on his potential. I think you could see a similar scenario here with Blake Snell. He's a talented pitcher. He's got all the talent in the world. And it's a guy that, if he were able to strike it rich in free agency and have a couple more big years, who knows? I think this is a guy who can stretch out his career quite a bit. And we've seen pitchers have those bumps in the road and figure it out, especially Cy Young caliber guys like a Justin Verlander. That's the guy, and Max Scherzer, another guy who sort of blossomed in a sort of second half of their career, or a second wind of their career in terms of Verlander. I could see the same thing happening with Snell, who is still a supremely talented pitcher, and I think it's a guy to watch if, again, you're into the risk of maybe going after a pitcher rather than a guy like an Rosario, who is just sort of the flavor of the month, maybe you think right now. Going back to L.A., another player to watch is Corey Seager. it feels like we kind of forgot about this guy, right? No one's forgetting about him now. NLCS MVP. The man could not stop hitting home runs. Personally, this is a guy that when he came up, I thought this is a incredibly talented player, more so than even his brother Kyle, who's a good player up in Seattle. A guy who won the Rookie of the Year. I thought this guy was en route to an MVP-filled career. A shortstop with power, has a great glove. It just felt like the right mixture. And, of course, he's playing in Los Angeles, so the spotlight is on him all the time. People are watching him all the time. I thought MVP caliber career, he's going to rack them up. He's going to rack up the awards. And injuries have slowed him down. He had an up and down season last year, still put up good power numbers. This year, a totally different story. Looked like a different guy. And I think part of that is maybe the trade rumors about Francisco Lindor, that there was all these rumors that the Dodgers were ready to put Frankie Lindor, the Cleveland Indians star shortstop, in at his position. They'll move Seager to third, or they'll deal Seager. I think that kind of puts a fire under him, and I think it really it propelled him to finally fulfill all of that potential that he has. Right now, that's still a really good card to hang on to, clearly. I think the value is only going to go up. He's still really young. There's still a ton of potential for him to grow. He is the hottest hitter on the Dodgers right now, and if you look up and down that lineup, the star players have not hit incredibly well here in the postseason. It has been a lot of the pitching that has picked them up in their wins. Albeit they had that 15-run game against the Braves. But still, he has been the main offensive contributor to this Dodger team. And it hasn't been Mookie Betts. It hasn't been Cody Bellinger. It's been Corey Seager here in this postseason. He's hot right now. I expect it to continue into the World Series. I know the Rays have a great pitching staff, but I think Corey Seager, for me, sky's the limit. I think this guy has found it. He's found his stroke. He's the guy now in LA. Now that they've made the Mookie Betts deal, they're not going to make the Francisco Lindor trade. I highly doubt it. He's locked in at shortstop, and I expect him to continue his hot streak here into the World Series. Next up for Tampa Bay, a guy who is really on the opposite side of the spectrum from Corey Seager, Austin Meadows. Remember him? Austin Meadows, yeah, that guy. All-star player last year, was part of that Tyler Glasnow trade, which is going to go down as the worst trade in Pittsburgh Pirates history. And we're talking about a team that let Barry Bonds go. And then he goes on to win, 5 or 6 MVPs. I don't know the number off the top of my head. This may go down as one of the worst trades in their history. Glasnow has become an ace. He got injured at the end of last year, the end of 2 years ago, I believe, and finally is starting to come back from that. Looks like an ace. Austin Meadows, on the other hand, a guy who was an all-star a year ago, really came onto the scene quick, a guy who's got a ton of power-speed combo. I think for him, he's a really good low play if you're looking for him. I wouldn't worry too much if you're hanging onto his card and you think, crap, I missed the boat on Austin Meadows. I don't think so quite yet. One, a good World Series turns everything around. People are going to want to hold on to that, and if he gets a World Series MVP, who knows? I think he's a really good low play right now if you've got him, or if you're looking maybe for a guy to invest in, if you got that kind of dough to invest in, a really nice Austin Meadows card. I think it's a really good low play. It's a guy who's got 30 home run potential, a World Series MVP type performance, a big World Series I think could propel him to really have a ton of confidence for the rest of his career. He's only 25. That's the other thing. He did what he did last year at a really young age. He defied a lot of odds. I know there were some scouts saying that Meadows are not as hot on him, but you look at the minor league stats, he always put together good years, always had good power, and a good speed combo for him. He had COVID to start the season. I think that plays a huge part of why he has never really put it together this year. It got off to a weird, wonky start, and I know there's some guys who, like Juan Soto, had that, and he, led the league in batting average. But for Meadows, I think that does play a part in why he kind of got off to a weird start, and the way the Rays kind of go about their business, they go with the hot hand. They don't always go with the guy with the name brand. So I think that he just never quite got off to the start he needed to really put things together. I think if he's got a great World Series here, it sets him on a nice path, not only for this offseason if you've got his card and you're maybe looking to flip it, but I think for the rest of his career as a long play. This is still a really young player on a team and a franchise that is very good and will be good for a long time. And we'll wrap things up with Cody Bellinger, the guy who has become the most memed player in Major League Baseball right now. Here, let's do our best Cody Bellinger face. All right, there we go. We got it out. Cody Bellinger with that huge home run in the Game 7 of the NLCS, I think puts it really, really turned around a season that was very forgettable for the MVP. And again, remember when he was MVP? It feels like 2019 was about 500 years ago with everything that's happened in not only baseball, but everything in our life. Cody Bellinger is still, 25, 26 years old? He's still got everything ahead of him in his career. His rookie season was phenomenal. His MVP year was even better. He's got an incredible lineup around him for a long, long time, and I'm sure the Dodgers are going to do everything they can to lock him up long term. If you're worried, if you've got a Bellinger and you're thinking, man, oh man, did I miss the boat on this guy? Should I have flipped him in the offseason when his value was super high? I say absolutely not. I think you're fine. This guy is so supremely talented. I think the move to center field is going to help him long term. First base, he got an injury, and I think that's kind of affected things, and I think the fact that he's now made that permanent switch to the outfield is going to help him long term. He's just too good a player. There's too much talent. There's too much potential for this guy, I think, to be two and done, really. I would say one and done, but that rookie season was an MVP caliber year for him. I've seen too much of this guy, and I love a guy with a big all-out swing like he's got. He's fun to watch. And I think that he's a guy who is a great long play. If you're hanging on to his cards, if you got him, this is a guy that I think has got more MVPs to come if he can stay healthy. And again, the Dodgers are going to be good for a while. As much as it hurts my Giants fan heart to say it, they're going to be good for a long time with Mookie Betts, with Corey Seager, with Gavin Lux in the wings, with Will Smith now, Dustin May, Tony Gonsolin, Walker Buehler. The list goes on and on and on. And Cody Bellinger is among the best of that group. He's got so much talent around him. He's in L.A. Don't worry if you think you missed the boat with Cody Bellinger, trying to flip him if you're into that flip life. Don't worry. I think you're going to be okay. Cody Bellinger will be a very, very talented player for years to come. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Let us know in the comments who is going to win the World Series. My pick, I think I got to go Dodgers in 6. It just feels like this is it. They have been on the precipice of a World Series for so long. It's got to happen at some point. Look, I like Tampa Bay. They're a very talented team. Probably the most evenly talented team. They're just a really balanced squad, good bullpen, good starting pitching. They've got some bats when they're hot. The bats, there are some very underrated bats on this team, but the Dodgers are such a supremely talented team. Mookie Betts made some incredible defensive plays in that series, and his bat has not even turned all the way on here in the postseason. If he can do that, my God, it may actually be a shorter series than I anticipate, but as of right now, I'm going Dodgers in 6. That's my pick. Let me know in the comments who you got in the World Series. That's going to wrap it up for the Dugout Session, and we may be back for some extra baseball throughout the offseason, maybe talk some free agency, some trades, some hot stove, the winter meetings. But until then, it has been a pleasure talking baseball with you. Until 2021, I'm Cody Pasby. Make sure to, of course, follow us here on Mojobreak Media and on Mojobreak and the Mojobreak Card Shop. Breaks, podcasts, videos, all sorts of great stuff on all 3 YouTube channels. Until then, we'll talk to you soon.